And you are on The Conversation Hour on 774 ABC Melbourne and ABC Victoria. Ali Moore with you. Andrew Pegler is my co-host. Our first guest, Leo Sayer, is still with us in the studio. Our next guest is the founder and principal of, now I hope I say this correctly, Elance Adult Ballet School, Diane Harrison. Diane Harrison, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It's very close. It's Elance.
Elance. Now, I said Adult Ballet School. What exactly does that mean? Who are your pupils?
Well, it means that we exclusively teach adults. So we don't take any students under 18, and right now my oldest student is 71, believe it or not.
What, so from 18 to 71?
Absolutely, with everything in between. I think our most highly populated age group right now is mid-20s to mid-40s.
And do you have to have had some experience? I mean, why do people come to you?
Well, you don't have to have had experience. We have two key groups that come to us. The first people like myself who danced for a significant number of years when they were younger, plenty to an elite level, but may not have taken it to the professional level and danced in companies nationally or internationally. It's such a huge amount of training to have in your past, and people only do it and do that many years of it if they're really, really passionate about it, if it's something that they dearly love. And to then step away from it and go on with, I suppose you'd call it, a normal life. Most people don't realise that there is an avenue where they can come back, and these classes are provided exactly for that purpose. There are also a lot of people who would have liked the opportunity to dance when they were younger. They've always had that childhood dream of, I suppose, you know, God help us, tutus and tiaras, and want to live it out somehow. So we do take people as absolute beginners and teach the technique from the very, very first step. So, yeah, both kinds.
So you started dancing when you were 5?
I actually started when I was 4.
Right, yeah. Okay, well, just...
And for me, yes, it was the dream of tutus and tiaras.
Absolutely.
Back then.
How did you go?
I danced through till I was 19. I completed all of my exams in the Borobonsky system right through to advanced. I then joined the National Ballet School under the tutelage of Galen Stock and Gary Norman, two absolute icons in the Australian ballet world. And very, very sadly, chronic injury stopped me from going any further. So it's not an uncommon story either. I had to step away and then think about what I was going to do with my life. And I had upwards of 16 years away from ballet. And in fact, it was such a traumatic thing, having it ripped away so suddenly. I didn't want anything to do with ballet for most of those years. And I think somewhere in the back of my head, I knew something was missing, because ballet is such a deeply emotional experience as much as it is physical. And I had used my body physically from when I was 4 years old and onwards, so I needed to keep doing that. And even in those years away from ballet, I tried a number of different things. I had gym memberships, and I got involved in running. I think I did some fun runs. God, what was I thinking? I even did martial arts, believe it or not. And I was nearly 30 when it finally dawned on me that what was missing was the emotional fulfillment and the artistic reward that you get from doing ballet. So I decided to go back and find a class. That was the first problem, finding a class for adults. They didn't exist. So I hunted. It took me nearly 6 months, and I finally found a dinky little class that was held on the top of a video shop, of all places, and I joined that. And, you know, Ali, it was like falling in love all over again.
But this was a class that was designed for people who had some experience, though?
That particular class was, yeah.
And so this is what inspired you to start a school?
It did. It highlighted to me something I had long suspected, that this was a huge portion of our population that was not being catered for. And all I wanted to do was to bring the joy of ballet back to people who have done it in the past and wanted to get it back into their lives.
Is there a huge issue, though, of, as one ex-dancer who works in this organisation said to me, is there an issue of pride or ego, I guess, that if you left it, you're sort of almost too proud to go back for fear of how you'll perform?
I think fear actually is the right word, and most people coming back do suffer that intense fear of, how am I going to go? Am I going to remember the steps? What if I don't remember the terminology, because, you know, it is all in French? What about my body? That's the biggest one, because of course when you are dancing at that sort of level, and I was dancing 5 nights a week and most Saturdays as well. It's very, very intense.
I guess the first step is for someone like you, where if you do something like ballet to a high level and it becomes a very fine art, then to go back to it, you must first of all come to terms with the fact that physically you're not going to be in the sort of shape you might have been at 18. And I guess you've got to then surrender to that. And once you do, as the Buddhists always go on about, surrender yourself to the reality or let go of the desire, I suppose then that will allow you then to enjoy it to the relative abilities that you have at that stage.
It does. I think surrendering your need to compete actually is a very, very difficult thing, because the ballet world for the youth, most students who, it's dreadfully competitive, and most students who start at such a young age, they do go into it with the desire to move towards a professional career in dance, and it is a cutthroat industry. So that takes its toll. It takes its toll on you when you realise that's not going to be your destination.
So are you at 5 able to make this conscious decision that you love ballet, or is it something that your parents kind of put you in a situation where you need to, they force you to explore it? On the whole, do you think people at 5 can make this decision?
I can't speak for every other child that does ballet, but I can tell you with my story, and my mum loves telling this story. I went up to her at the age of 4 and said, "Mum, I want to do ballet." And to this day, she does not know where I got the idea from.
The tutu and the tiara.
Where did I even hear the word ballet? She doesn't know if I saw something on TV or did I see a book somewhere. And my parents laughed because I was this little pudgy thing. And they said, "Oh, we'll enroll her for a term and then she'll probably want to go and do swimming." And 12 years later, they thought, well, maybe she's going to stick with this. I don't know where it comes from. I think it is a very, very intuitive, instinctive thing. It's in you or it's not. Leo, you'd probably understand.
Are you a dancer, Leo?
Totally. Well, I've written a lot of songs about dancing. I wasn't the greatest. I did win a competition once when I was very young.
For what sort of dancing?
Some sort of, disco dancing or something like that. And I just made it up as I went along, and I thought, oh my God, I'm getting away with this. So it was like that.
But as a performer, you have to be able to dance a bit.
Well, I do understand the regime, and also I understand that intrinsic thing that you're saying where, God knows where the idea comes from. There's something that just calls you. It's the muse. I don't know if it's passed on by generations. Who knows where it comes from?
It becomes like your oxygen. I could not imagine not dancing. It's like not breathing. I now, you feel complete when you have this artistic element in your life. You feel absolutely complete.
Do you think a good ballet dancer needs a good musical ear? I mean, someone like, in terms of what Leo does and what you do you think there's sort of crossovers between those two, or is ballet more of a physical expression? And do you need a sense of rhythm? I mean, I guess
it certainly helps, but then musicality is something that you can learn.
Yeah.
I think I like to describe ballet and try to instill in our students that ballet is music made physical or made visual. It's a very, very distinct language, and so you can perform music. So every sound, every emotion. I mean, music is so deeply emotional as well.
Yeah.
And so both music and ballet cross over to enable you to express every gamut of human emotion.
The art of doing it
physicality.
is where it joins up, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, completely.
It's the expression that is very similar.
And you can barely have one without the other.
But can everyone dance?
I think everyone can dance. Absolutely.
Can everyone dance to a publicly acceptable level of?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, dancing is a skill. It is something you can learn. How skilled you become at it then involves things like your own physical makeup and the sort of training that you had, how young you were when you started, etc. But yes, absolutely. I could take you in a class tomorrow and within 6 months have you looking extremely competent.
Right. Well, that's a hell of a challenge.